Hello, world! I'm Chris Pirillo, and you got to see behind the scenes there. You're watching another live Q&A with you and me. I do one of these every weekday, even those weekdays that I forget that I'm streaming earlier than normal. Like today. Oops, well, I hope you have your favorite drink in your hand right now as we press through and answer a question. But first, let me go ahead and remind everybody that you can tune into every live stream and see just about everything that I do, get tons of bonuses, and including those daily hangouts that we do. All you got to do is become one of the Super Nomies, aka a patron. Head over to chrispirillo.com for more information. That's our Patreon campaign. So thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. And, of course, sticking with me. It starts at $2 a month. Thank you. Today's Q&A is, why is Microsoft Office coming to Samsung and Dell devices? I actually touched upon this in yesterday's TLDR broadcast, but this is something that I think is going to shock a lot of people and make a lot of other people laugh. It's good for Samsung, it's good for Dell, because now they have another revenue generation opportunity that isn't necessarily going to upset their default users, at least the people who just stick with the defaults, and a lot of people do. For as much as you and I really like to download and install new apps, other people, not so much. So Microsoft Office has now come to pretty much every platform, every major platform, okay? iOS, Android, of course, Windows, it's on OS 10. Microsoft is pressing forward with that. The problem has been with Microsoft that they hadn't done that in the past. Traditionally speaking, Office had only been available primarily on Windows, and then OS 10 it was, but it wasn't amazing. Still isn't amazing, but it is getting there. It's inching towards amazing. Of course, its initial iOS launch was fantastic, and it's only gotten better as they've refined that. Of course, I expect the same with a touch-optimized version of Office for Android. Why is Microsoft on Samsung devices instead of, well, Google Docs by default? Well, Samsung doesn't need to do that under licensing. They don't need to do it. So Microsoft's thinking to themselves probably, because I don't know, I'm not privy to any backdoor conversations. Is that the right thing to say, backdoor conversations? Backdoor? I'm not a fly on the wall, but if I was, I'd imagine it went something like this. Microsoft said, we need to get our Office applications in front of users who know about Microsoft Office, but haven't necessarily taken the time to download it. We need to get it on more devices. But people really aren't buying our Windows phones. Even though they are good, I mean, let's face it, it's they've got merit. The Windows operating system on the mobile platform has evolved. Can we all agree on that? Okay. We should talk to Samsung. They kind of have a lot of users. That'd be a smart move, because what does it matter how people get to Office? I mean, if they use Office on their Android device or maybe even Tizen device, fine. I'm not saying that we're going to develop Office for Tizen, but it could happen at some point in the future. But that's great. Maybe we could figure out a deal. If they put Microsoft Office on their phones, maybe we can pay them something. I don't know. Can we? What if we just offer to retweet them? Can we do that? Will they go for that? I don't know how it went, but it was something likely akin to that. Probably a lot more professional than the way I portrayed the conversation. It could have also been something where Samsung was thinking, we need a clear differentiator with all those other Android devices out there, and our hardware is good. And our software is getting better, but, I wonder, Google, I don't know if they necessarily pay us to put Google Docs on our phones. Would Microsoft pay us extra money? We can make money that way? Could we do that? Can we ask someone there? Does anybody know the right person can you tweet them? Just tweet at them. Yeah, they'll see it, right? I don't know how that went, but it was likely a deal like that, not just with Samsung, but of course with Dell. So, the fact that Microsoft Office is going to come pre-installed on a third-party device, not a shock. It's really even not a shock that it's coming pre-installed on a device that's running Android, because that's the Android. It's the Android way. It's the Android ecosystem. It's not a Google Play device, or what do they used to call them? Google Play Edition, whatever they're calling them these days. It makes a lot of sense. And even if no money exchanged hands, and I'd be shocked if it didn't, because Microsoft's looking for way more installations of Office than it's had. Of course, it needs to. It makes its money on Office 365 subscriptions. Even if it wasn't Microsoft Office, it probably would have been someone else, or was someone else. I have over the years used a variety of Android devices that have run third-party Office-esque software. I'd never heard of the software. I never really even used it, but I would trust Microsoft software on an Android device. Sure, why not? It's a brand that people likely already know, so they're familiar with it. They may already have a Microsoft Office subscription, and it's kind of weird, but getting an Android device from at least Samsung could end up selling more Windows PCs. Not necessarily from Samsung, but Dell's got a better opportunity to sell Android devices in conjunction with Dell PCs. It's the beauty of having multiple business models and interacting in this space. Samsung's business model is not, Dell's business model is not, Apple's business model is not, and Microsoft's business model is not, Google's business model. They all get mashed up and mixed up in between. So it doesn't surprise me that this happened. Why it's happening is because Microsoft needs more installations. That's my perspective. That's my belief. And perhaps Samsung and Dell needed another value add to pull people into getting their device versus something else. Not that you couldn't get Microsoft Office, independently, but being installed as a default app, as we talked about yesterday, is kind of very, 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 very important, if only for monetization strategies. And a lot of people don't download third-party apps, maybe one or two, but that's it. And Microsoft Office is probably not the thing they're going to be downloading first. It's not the thing that they're necessarily thinking of. It's not always going to happen. So being a default is a huge deal. I think it's a good move for every company involved, if only because, well, except for Google. Google's probably not very happy about that. But the relationship between Samsung and Google, let's face it, has been a little strained as of late. So that is my answer to the well-asked question. Hopefully you appreciate it, whether you agree or disagree. Maybe you have another perspective on the matter. Maybe you really know what's going on. Maybe you can educate me. But that's my perspective. That's my belief. You asked for my answer. I gave it to you very happily. Keep asking questions. I will keep answering them. I appreciate you. But at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices.